Good afternoon, and welcome to this edition of The Richard Urban Show. I am your host, Richard Urban, coming to you from historic Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. The title of today's episode is OMG! Impeach the media and re-elect President Trump. I'd like to start by having a reading from the words of Reverend Sun Myung Moon and Peace Message number 10.
Ladies and gentlemen, each person has a mind and body and a spirit self that is more elevated than the mind. God resides in the world in which we live with our physical bodies and also in the spirit world to which our spirits are destined to pass on. Therefore, only when we have become completely one with God in true love are we complete. Such a perfected person might be a small individual, but would represent all of history and all potential future relationships, and so could be said to possess infinite value. Once we are aware of this universal value, we realize our lives should be led by and carried out in service to our minds for the sake of perfecting a standard of absolute sexual morality. That is why your conscience knows and perceives not only every action you have performed, but also every thought you have entertained. Your conscience is aware of these things before your teachers, parents, or even God are. Hence, if you were to live in absolute obedience to the commands of your conscience, which is your teacher for eternity, you would be absolutely guaranteed to have eternal life, such is the way of God's creation. When viewing the structure of a human being from a different angle, we can recognize that God created us as beings with dual characteristics. He created our physical bodies as miniatures of the corporeal tangible world, and our spiritual bodies as representatives of and lords of the incorporeal world. Accordingly, his intention was that we would live for 100 years or so in the physical world, and once the physical body ceases to function, pass on naturally and automatically into the incorporeal spirit world. In this way, though it cannot be perceived by the eyes in our physical bodies, the spirit world is the automatic and inevitable extension of our lives on earth, humanity's eternal and original homeland created by God. The spirit world does actually exist. It is not a world that has been fantasized or imagined into existence. We do not have the right to choose. It is not a world we can go to if we please or refuse to go to if we would rather not. Just as God is eternal and unchanging, the spirit world he created is also eternal and unchanging. Just as we live in the physical world in our physical bodies and form all sorts of relationships with the existing world, in the spirit world we are destined to go on living in our spiritual bodies, forming and maintaining close relationships with all phenomena of the spirit world. And that ends our reading. This is from The Family Root in Absolute Sexual Ethics, which is a model for God's absoluteness, peace, and ideal, and the global kingdom. So that speech and message is about following your conscience. And if you follow your conscience, you go straight to heaven. And we're talking about political corruption in this issue. We're talking about lying, conniving. And I would say for any politician or anybody else, it's extremely important to follow your conscience. And that doesn't matter whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, or anything else. So let's look at these allegations now about President Trump committing treason and terribly requesting the President of Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden. The self-righteous Democrats are banging their chests. Wait a minute. Something's wrong with that narrative. So let's look at what actually happened and how that is a bunch of baloney cadoney, and that Adam Schiff, his whole thing is like a complete, not a real investigation. And by the way, if the House wants to impeach President Trump, then they need to have a vote, just like they did with President Nixon, just like they did for also President Clinton, and even for Andrew Jackson back in the day then. You got to have a vote to begin impeachment. And because they haven't voted, the Republicans can't even subpoena anybody or mount any defense. This is a kangaroo trial. And anybody who doesn't recognize that is not being honest. They're grinding a political axe to make their point. How about looking at the facts? And yeah, actually, I'm a registered independent, believe it or not. I've been for a long time. And the thing about it is, there's a lot of Republicans. Like, look at Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney doesn't like President Trump. He's so terrible, he might vote to impeach him if it ever got to that. Oh, what a surprise. Mitt Romney is a never Trumper. I don't even know why he calls himself a Republican. He never liked Trump. He's probably among those 120 Republicans. I remember during the election, I remember posting that on my Facebook, and what I sent, actually, I'm probably the only email I ever sent to Republican National Committee. I said, are you guys insane? You guys have Donald Trump, a very popular person who's fighting corruption, and you have 120 so-called Republicans who say they would rather, I don't know, maybe they'd rather vote for Hillary Clinton than have Donald Trump. I said, you guys are lunatics. Basically, in my email, probably if you go back in my Facebook, you can find that. So, I mean, is it any surprise that people like Romney don't support Trump? He never supported Trump. Why does he even call himself a Republican? I don't even know. Okay, so let's get down to nitty gritty and see what's really going on here. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the actual document of President Trump's phone call. By the way, this is not the fake version that Adam Schiff talked about in his speech. This is what he actually said. It's taken by the intelligence agents that were there. The president, I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. So according to some media dishonest reporting, is asking them to investigate Biden. Sorry, wrong. Rather, he said, I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike, ... I guess you have one of your wealthy people. The server, they say, Ukraine hasn't. There are a lot of things that went on, the whole situation. I think you're surrounding yourself with some of the same people. I would like to have the Attorney General call you or your people, and I would like you to get to the bottom of it. He's talking about the attempt of the Democrat Party to interfere in the U.S. elections. Hello, that's illegal regardless of what party it is. As you saw yesterday, that whole nonsense ended with a very poor performance by a man named Robert Mueller. An incompetent performance. But they say a lot of it started with Ukraine. Whatever you can do, it's very important that you do it if that's possible. So media outlets reported, some of them, dishonestly surprised that President Trump was asking for a direct favor. No. Then later in the conversation, when we can scroll down here rather, good, because I heard you had a prosecutor who was very good and he was shut down, and that's really unfair. A lot of people are talking about this, the way they shut your very good prosecutor down, and you had some very bad people involved. Mr. Giuliani is a highly respected man. He was the mayor of New York City, a great mayor, and I would like him to call you. I will ask him to call you along with the Attorney General. Rudy very much knows what's happening, and he is a very capable guy. If you could speak to him, that would be great. The foreign ambassador for the United States, the woman, was bad news, and the people she was dealing with in Ukraine were bad news. Excuse me. So I just want to let you know that. Period. The other thing, there's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution. A lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the Attorney General would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me. Okay, so he's asking him to investigate corrupt actions. It doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat or neither. He's investigating corruption. There's nothing wrong with that. And this supposedly is the whole, basis, apparently, of the whole impeachment thing. This is baloney. It's bull crunky. Okay, so let's look at some articles by a really good investigative reporter, John Solomon, and see what really happened. So the first one we're going to talk about is referring to the whole so-called Russia collusion investigation. And first of all, what was going on there? Look, Hillary Clinton lost the election, and she started Hillary, Obama, and the whole Democrat machine started this whole false narrative, wasting tens of millions of dollars in 2 years about the Russia collusion. And there was none. They created the whole hoax themselves. And some heads need to roll in the sense that this needs to be investigated. And in fact, I think a lot of this impeachment stuff is because a lot of that's about to come out very soon this fall. That means right now. And they're trying to form this huge distraction. It's kind of like, hey, if you want to distract someone, accuse them of the very things that you're doing. So let's look a little bit at this first article by John Solomon right here. Okay? So these articles were all from this September. My reporting, including interviews with 4 dozen U.S. officials over the last several months, actually identifies a much larger collection of documents, about a dozen altogether, that when declassified would show more completely how a routine counterintelligence probe was hijacked. Hello! By who? Hillary Clinton, Obama, to turn the most awesome spy powers in America against a presidential nominee. Trump, President Trump, at that time nominee Trump, in what was essentially a political dirty trick orchestrated by the Democrats. Oh, gee, the Democrats orchestrated a dirty trick. But they're trying to say Trump should be impeached. This is ridiculous. Even someone in elementary school could see through this. Hello! Here are the documents that have the greatest chance of rocking Washington if declassified. And then one of them is Christopher Steele. That's the person who made that dossier, supposedly. Okay, let's read the first one. Here we go. Christopher Steele's confidential human resource reports at the FBI. These documents, known in bureau parlance as 1023 reports, show exactly what transpired each time Steele and his FBI handlers met in the summer and fall of 2016 to discuss his anti-Trump dossier. Okay, so what did happen? How did the FBI come to endorse this baloney transcript? Well, gee, they're not releasing what went on, but it needs to be released. Why aren't they releasing it? Are they hiding something? Oh, no, that wouldn't be true, would it? The big reveal, my sources say, could be the first evidence that the FBI shared sensitive information with Steele, such the existence of a classified crossfire hurricane operation targeting the Trump campaign. Oh, they're targeting the Trump campaign. It would be a huge discovery if the FBI fed Trump Russian intel to Steele in the midst of an election, especially when his ultimate opposition research client was Hillary Clinton. Yes, Fusion GPS, hired by the Democratic Party, paid for this phony dossier. Hello? Anyway, and the Democratic National Committee. The FBI, so that's what they're saying here. That was who the people who Steele was actually getting paid and working for. The FBI has released only 1 or 2 of these reports under Freedom of Information Act lawsuits. They were 100% redacted, meaning worthless, redacted, blacked out. The American public deserves better. And there are many other documents. That would be a whole nother video. So let's move on to this current issue of Ukraine. Next article. It's too bad a shallow media effort has failed to capture the whole story and tell it to the American public in its entirety. It's almost as though the lessons of the now debunked Russia-Trump collusion narrative. Hello, there was no collusion. Hello, Adam Schiff. Hello, Nancy Pelosi. Hello, anybody who's thinking. Anybody home? Okay. So, that didn't really sink in for some reporters. Duh. Hello, NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, etc., Washington Post, New York Times, etc., etc. And that is a loss for the American public. The continuing folly was evidenced when much attention was given Friday to Hillary Clinton's tweet suggesting Trump's contact with Zelensky, i.e. the phone call I just read, amounted to an effort to solicit foreign power to interfere in the next election. Well, actually, it's the Democrats who are doing the same thing. This is the same thing they did with the Russia probe. They're the ones who are colluding with Russia and Ukraine, and then they're saying that Trump did it. What a bunch of BS. Who would believe this stuff? Well, you know what? I'm going to make a prediction right now. if you go back on my channel here, you will see that I correctly predicted that President Trump would be elected as President of the United States. Yes, I did. And no one even noticed. Okay, that's all right. Not too many people notice. But I am now predicting that the Democrats are going to lose the House. Trump will be reelected. I predict that. And the Democrats are going to lose the House. They're not just going to lose it, they're going to lose it big time. Okay, let's continue. That tweet may be provocative, but it's unfair. The contacts were about resolving what happened in the last election and the last administration. Hello, and I just read you that. And if anyone is to have high moral ground on foreign interference in elections, Clinton can't be the first in line. Ah, are you kidding? Clinton, when she's in the White House, she would visit different countries like Qatar, and then Qatar, which I used to pronounce Qatar. Sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Qatar would donate like, what was it, 10,000? No, like hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Clinton Foundation. And not only did they donate to the Clinton Foundation, 90% of the money from the Clinton Foundation never went to help anybody. It went for the staff. What kind of nonprofit is that? Okay, let's get back to the article here. Her campaign lawyers caused Christopher Steele, a British foreign intelligence, rather national, desperate to defeat Trump, to be hired to solicit unverified allegations, i.e. the so-called Steele dossier, from Russians about Trump as part of an opposition research project. I remember that if I recall correctly, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, that dossier had crazy, insane stuff, like President Trump went to some hotel, and then he had sex with some prostitute, and then he peed on his bed or something, or somebody did it. Just insane, ridiculous, salacious garbage. Okay, let's continue. All right, so he was hired to solicit unverified allegations from Russians about Trump as a part of an opposition research project, and then went to the FBI to trump up an investigation on Trump. Trump up investigation on Trump. And her party leaders, that would be Hillary Clinton, the Democratic National Committee, asked the Ukrainian embassy to also try to dig up dirt on Trump. Yes, they did, and they hired a lady to do that. I think her name is Chalupa. That's not a record worthy of throwing the first punch on this story. Also, there's another story I reported on at least twice, and if you look back in my videos about President Trump before his election, about Seth Rich. Now, I believe, based on, and you look at my videos if you want to understand more, Seth Rich was the person who released the leaked emails that Hillary Clinton and the Democrats claimed the Russians gave to media. No, it was Seth Rich. And you know what happened to Seth Rich? He was murdered. Hello? And if you look at the Donna Brazil's interviews around that time, even Donna Brazil was scared. Like, oh my gosh. You know, she would close the windows in her office, in case there was a sniper outside. So, okay, that's a little tangent, but just tells you something about what kind of campaign they were running, really. Okay, let's move to the next article. So, Clinton is throwing dirt in the Democrats. Hello, they're the ones who need to be investigated, and they actually are being investigated now, and I believe that's one of the main reasons they're putting up this huge smoke screen, and anybody who has any sense will see that it's garbage, and this is going to backfire. Next article. So supposedly Trump is pressuring them to investigate Biden. First of all, if Biden was doing illegal things, it needs to be investigated, period. And if anybody else is doing illegal things, Republican, Democrat, or otherwise, it needs to be investigated. So, the political pressure continued. Biden threatened to withhold $1 billion, that's a lot of money, in crucial U.S. aid to Kiev if Poroshenko, the prosecutor at that time, was investigating whether Biden's son, the company Biden's son worked for, was involved in corruption or tax evasion. Did not fire the country's chief prosecutor. Ukraine would have been bankrupted without the aid, and so Poroshenko obliged on March 29, 2016, and fired Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin. At the time, Biden was aware that Shokin's office was investigating Burisma, the firm employing Hunter Biden, after a December 2015 New York Times article. Oh, what a coincidence. His son was working for his company. But that didn't have anything to do with the fact that Biden pressured him to fire the prosecutor investigating where his son worked. Golly, as I said, even an elementary school student could figure that out. Adam Schiff, do you think we're really that stupid? Hello, anybody home? Now, what wasn't known at the time, Shokin told me recently, was that Ukrainian prosecutors were preparing a request to interview Hunter Biden about his activities and the monies he was receiving from Ukraine. If such an interview became public during the middle of the 2016 election, it would have had enormous negative implications for the Democrats. Democrats continued to tap Ukraine for Trump dirt through the 2016 election, my reporting shows. And he has another article detailing that. These are on The Hill, thehill.com. Nellie Orr, the wife of senior U.S. Justice Department official Bruce Orr, worked in 2016 as a contractor for Fusion GPS, the same Hillary Clinton funded opposition research. What a cozy thing. She's a wife of a senior U.S. Justice Department official Bruce Orr. And she worked for Fusion GPS, the same Hillary Clinton funded opposition research firm that hired Christopher Steele, the British spy who wrote the now debunked dossier linking Trump to Russia collusion. Hello, it was complete bull crunky. It was false. Nellie Orr testified to Congress that some of the dirt she found on Trump during her 2016 election opposition research came from a Ukrainian parliament member. She also said that she eventually took the information to the FBI through her husband, another way Ukraine got interested in the 2016 election. Oh, well, isn't that unethical? If your wife passes paid research from the Democrats to State Department officials, that's the kind of State Department Hillary Clinton ran. Completely unethical. Hello. Easy to find out. Look up the Clinton Foundation. Find out the donations that were given by countries like I just mentioned, like Qatar, who, she was visiting. What a convenient situation. Politics, pressure, opposition research, all were part of the Democrats' playbook on Ukraine long before Trump ever called Zelensky this summer. And as Senator Murphy's foray earlier this month shows, it hasn't stopped. The evidence is so expansive as to strain the credulity of the Democrats' current outrage at Trump's behavior with Ukraine. And as I just said, which raised the question, could it be the Ukraine tale currently being weaved by Democrats and their allies in the media is nothing more than a smokescreen designed to distract us from the forthcoming Justice Department Inspector General report into abuses during the Democratic-inspired Russia collusion probe? It's a question worth answering. Next article. Former Vice President Joe Biden, now a 2020 Democratic presidential contender, has locked into a specific story about the controversy in Ukraine. He insists that in the spring 2016, he strong-armed Ukraine to fire its chief prosecutor solely because Biden believed that that official was corrupt and inept, not because the Ukrainian was investigating a natural gas company, Burisma Holdings, that hired Biden's son Hunter into a lucrative job. What a coincidence. Like I said, it doesn't take much to see through this. There's just one problem. Hundreds of pages of never released memos and documents, many from inside the American team helping Burisma to stave off its legal troubles, conflict with Biden's narrative. And they raise a troubling prospect that U.S. officials may have painted a false picture in Ukraine that helped ease Burisma's legal troubles and stop prosecutors' plans to interview Hunter Biden during the 2016 U.S. presidential election. So it's saying that this company met with Ukrainian officials just days after Biden forced the firing of the country's chief prosecutor and offered an apology for dissemination of false information by U.S. representative public figures, that would be Biden himself, about the Ukrainian prosecutors. According to the Ukrainian government's official memo of the meeting, the effort to secure that meeting began the same day the prosecutor's firing was announced. Let's see. It says false information. Would that be that the prosecutor was doing a bad job when actually he was doing the right thing? And then it asks many similar questions about this whole thing, why they were writing memos saying, they apologized for the false information. And it says Ukrainian prosecutors have been trying to get information about interference of people, specifically these Democrats and the Obama administration, into the elections in 2016, which they've been trying to get that information to the Justice Department, and they haven't been able to get it to them. Biden has faced scrutiny since December 2015, when the New York Times published a story noting that Burisma hired Hunter Biden just weeks after the vice president was asked by President Obama to oversee U.S.-Ukraine relations. That's awfully cozy, isn't it? That story also alerted Biden's office that Prosecutor General Victor Shokin had an active investigation of Burisma and its founder. Now, I read in other reports that there was no active investigation. That's misinformation. That's wrong. There were at least two active information, and it explains more about this. Then later, Biden said in a videotaped speech, he admitted that as vice president in March 2016, he threatened to cancel $1 billion in U.S. loan guarantees to pressure Ukraine's then-President Petro Poroshenko to fire Shokin. Hello, this is illegal. You do not pressure people to do personal favors for your family members by threatening to give or remove government benefits. So Biden himself is doing the very thing that they're claiming President Trump is doing. You know what? People aren't stupid. This is clear as a bell. So many months, Burisma, Hunter Biden got $3 million in fees. That's quite a bit, isn't it? Biden and his partner Archer collected from Burisma through their American firm as much as $166,000 a month. Wow. Here, John Solomon, that some media outlets report there were no investigations. However, that is wrong, as I just pointed out. There were two active investigations going of Biden at the time they fired the prosecutor. And that was confirmed by other media outlets as well. The prosecutor, Shokin, says in a newly sworn affidavit prepared for European court, the truth is that I was forced out because I was leading a wide-ranging corruption probe into Burisma Holdings, a natural gas firm active in Ukraine, and Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was a member of the board of directors, Shokin testified. Biden also served on the board of an American lobby and public relations firm. It paid tens of thousands of dollars to that firm, Blue Star Strategies. So they were trying to get meetings with different Ukrainian embassy workers. So we see that this whole thing about impeaching President Trump is a complete smokescreen. It's complete BS. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Rich Urban Show. The title is OMG, Impeach the Media and Reelect President Trump. I think you can conclude, if you're an honest, open person, that this whole so-called impeachment investigation is a complete fiasco. I totally support President Trump. Yesterday said he's not cooperating with this at all. No, he should not. If they want to have an actual impeachment, put the Democrats on record. The reason they don't want to go on record, because many Democrats are in districts that voted for Trump and they're up for re-election, and they don't want to go on record for the impeachment of Trump. Well, sorry. Go on the record, or I'll shut up and close this ridiculous kangaroo court down. I am Rich Urban. I am reporting to you from Harper's Ferry. Do be blessed and follow your conscience, and we will see you next time. Good afternoon.